Let's talk about how, if you want to lose fat or lose weight, your number one goal should be gaining muscle mass. This is the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm Jerred Moon, and I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand this concept, so I want to briefly dive into it. But when people go to lose weight, they typically go down this aerobic path. I don't know why. Maybe because it's hard and it burns a lot of calories. But that's where most people want to go. They want to okay, I guess I don't know what to do. I'll start running. In reality, that's not the best situation. And you can't really think about it as just a calories burned standpoint from how many calories do I burn in this workout. How you want to start looking at it from a conceptual basis is how can I put something in my body, on my body, however you want to put it, that is going to burn calories for me while I sleep. That's what you need to be thinking of. That's the conceptual level. It's like, okay, to lose weight, to lose body fat, I need to be burning a significant amount of calories, right? And how do I do that? The best way to burn calories is muscle mass. Plain and simple. If you can understand that concept, it'll make you want to gain the most muscle that you possibly can, that your frame will allow, that you can do naturally. And it's because on average, each pound of muscle burns about 4 to 7 calories per day, just to maintain itself. And now this, obviously disclaimers, these numbers can vary, whatever, but 4 to 7 calories per day. But by contrast, each pound of fat burns only about 2 calories per day. Okay, so 2 to 4 is double, 2 to 7 is more than triple. Muscle mass, just to maintain itself, burns a significant amount of calories. And so what it's going to do is it's going to increase your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. So more muscle mass means your body burns more calories at rest. The higher BMR, any higher BMR can contribute to a calorie deficit without needing to restrict food intake aggressively. It's also going to enhance your insulin sensitivity because increased muscle mass helps improve how your body processes and uses glucose, which can contribute to fat loss over time. I'm a huge believer in that fact now. I just truly believe glucose, insulin is something that you need to focus on. But here's another way to think about it. We got to the conceptual, okay, I want something in my body to burn muscle mass or to burn calories even while I'm sleeping. If you want to think about this another way, if we had two people, we had person one and person two, we're saving money. Person one saves $1,000 a month. Person two saves $1,000 a month. And person two is just putting it in a savings account. And so if something comes up or whatever, they have to dip into their savings, it just depletes because it's basically nothing happening. Like month one, you have 1,000, month two, you have 2,000. The other person one is like, you know what? I'm going to put this $1,000 in an investment. Let's say it's an investment that earns 10%. Well, now they're getting compound interest, right? And so if we do that, if we play that out over 10 years, person one is going to be so much further along than person two that it's not even funny. So much so that person one could take several months off while person two even doubles the amount they saved, and then they still will come nowhere close to catching up. And then person one can pick it back up, keep investing, and still just absolutely crush person two. So I'm not trying to get too far into financial analogy, but person one who's investing the money is the person with muscle mass. You can keep gaining muscle mass, and then you could take a break. You could work out a little bit less. You could go into maintenance mode. You could do all these things and you still have all this muscle mass that's sitting around and just burning 4 to 7 calories per day per pound of muscle just to maintain itself, while the other person is not as much focused on that. And, maybe they're doing endurance training or maybe they're just gaining fat mass and it's not really doing anything for them. They're burning some calories, but it's not the same as having this investment, this true nest egg that's just starting to build on itself. So that's another way that you can think about it. But to get down into the actual numbers of looking at this, so if we had, ultimately a 200-pound male, and let's say it was a 200-pound male at 8% body fat, and then we also had a 200-pound male that was at 30% body fat, which is obese. Well, if we just get into the basal metabolic rate, the BMR calculations, the person with 30% body fat, just to exist, right? This is just calories burned at rest. That's what BMR is, just to be alive. And really, it's like if you were to just wake up in the morning and not move, Like that's truly what BMR is. So I'm not factoring in any kind of exercise, getting your steps in, anything like that. This is just BMR. So how many calories are burned at rest. The 200-pound male with 30% body fat is going to burn about 1,700 calories per day. 1,700 just to exist. And more specifically, if you got into the actual calculations, it's 1,743. Now, the 200-pound male at 8% body fat, which is a good body, like it's pretty hard to achieve, but that's a great body fat percentage. This guy is going to burn 2,179 calories per day. So the difference in calorie burn from person 1 to person 2 is 436 calories per day. Do you see why it's so much easier for someone who has muscle mass to maintain their fitness? This is not true of endurance athletes, by the way. Endurance athletes who strength train, yeah, but if you're just purely endurance, this isn't necessarily the same. You have some muscle mass, but not near as much. So you want to be lean. You want to have a lot of muscle mass too. Okay, so you don't want to just be, because I mean, there are people with 4% body fat who are just skinny with not very much muscle mass, right? That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. You want to be a lower body fat percentage, but high muscle mass. And if you achieve that, you can burn 400 to 500 calories more per day just existing, not to mention what you end up doing in your exercise each and every single day, because strength training, resistance training burns a lot of calories. It really and truly does. But that's not what people should be focusing on if they're trying to lose fat or, lose weight, lose body fat. They shouldn't be thinking like, which form of exercise burns the most calories? Because I could strap kettlebells to your hands and your feet and put a weight vest on you and put you in a 4-foot deep pool and have you do jumping jacks and walk around. Just make it as hard as I possibly can. I'm like, hey, look, I discovered what's going to burn the most possible calories in a workout. That's not really what we should be optimizing for. What we should be optimizing for is how do I have something in or on my body that just sits around and burns calories at a higher rate than anything else, and that is muscle mass. So that's why you should be focusing on it. That's the whole conceptual part about it. And you do this quite simply. You don't have to do like powerlifting, heavy weightlifting, just resistance training of any kind. So you can do hypertrophy. I've talked about on the podcast several times how to focus on hypertrophy. It's time under tension. You need to get volume in there, and then you need to do some dynamic efforts. So if you can focus on those 3 things with whatever you're using, whether that's body weight, whether that's a kettlebell, whether that's a barbell, if you can get a lot of time under tension, you can get a lot of volume, and then you can also activate type 2 muscle fibers by doing fast and explosive movements. You can do those 3 things. You're going to be building muscle mass. And once you've built that muscle mass, you have this bank that's just going to continually burn calories for you. And it's easy for someone who has a lot of muscle mass to go into a calorie deficit, because if you have a lot of muscle mass and you just forget to eat, or you don't eat as much as you should, it doesn't matter. Your muscles are sitting there just burning calories. So a caloric deficit, which is what you ultimately need to be in to lose fat and to lose body weight, it's just so much easier for someone who has muscle mass, because you're going to slip into that caloric deficit just by the nature of how your body is formed. So that is what you should start optimizing for. And the reason behind it is not because we're going to burn more calories in this training session. It's because we're going to burn more calories as a human being at rest when we have more muscle mass. So that is how you can optimize for losing fat by gaining muscle. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.